really start off here by, by really discussing why would you want to consider a smart elevated skin temperature screening solution, in particular as everybody's being confronted with the return back to, people really congregating together and the concern of the spread of things like COVID or other potential contaminants. And so ultimately in this, as we look at the importance of creating that safer environment, and how do we do this in a way that that can do it efficiently, and as rapidly as possible. And so the Illustra Pro Thermal Elevated Skin Temperature Solution is something that can really help you solve those problems. At the end, because we are a security and buildings focused company, the whole part of doing this temperature detection starts with being able to see and recognize a face. And so we have artificial intelligence algorithms that run inside of this device that are security grade levels of being able to recognize a face. And because of the way the solution works in the field of view, we can be detecting anything in a range from 3 feet tall all the way to 7 feet tall. And so we're able to get students and faculty alike, being able to use a proper setup environment, and we're able to do that in less than a half a second, and recognizing that face and then converting that to a temperature. But really, one of the most important points that I would stress across this is that it's around the accuracy. And this solution has been tested independently by the Underwriters Laboratory to the global standards for human febrile body surface temperature detection, and that standard is known as the IEC 80601-2-59. And from that, they've been able to confirm, well, the FDA, in their view of these devices, says your accuracy has to be at least 0.5 degrees Celsius. That's 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Our solution has been verified to achieve a 0.2 degrees Celsius accuracy, or 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit. And in this, you're talking about elevated skin temperature detection, which is already going to have a lot of variables related to environment and potential light and things like that. Having the most accurate device gives you the biggest advantage in ensuring that you're not going to miss a low-grade fever, and again, potentially the spread of contamination or disease like COVID that that puts students and faculty at risk. So accuracy is fundamentally one of the most important things to be considered in this. And again, the speed, right? Being able to, within compliance to the standards, be able to do up to 15 faces a minute that are at that medical grade level of accuracy, but configurable to be able to be doing 30 plus scans per minute with multiple people in the field. So that's all tunable, with the configuration of the device, and that's the power and flexibility that this solution brings. It sits in terms of capabilities at the highest end of resolution. So if you're looking at competitive offerings for these type of products in the marketplace, you're going to find most of them are running a 2 megapixel sensor. Some of them are running a 4, but the Illustra Pro Thermal EST is a 5 megapixel sensor. And again, that's important because the whole detection process starts with being able to identify the face. And the more resolution and the more pixels, the faster and more accurate that you can do that. The solution is flexible, again, to be able to be configured for everything from single mode scanning to multi-scanning, where you have a greater throughput, and certainly in schools and an education environment where, I think the phrase frequently used is, when the buses show up, right? And that's where I'm going to have sort of this inrush of traffic. Being able to manage that and do that with the most accurate and reliable temperature reading becomes really important. And there's flexibility, being able to use tripod deployments or other various mounting options that enable you to be able to maybe move these around throughout the day as different parts of of the school schedule happen and still ensure that we're checking and providing a safe environment. And lots of interactive capabilities when it comes to how to handle a temperature alert or anomaly that is detected. Everything locally from the camera, from a super bright LED to a customizable voice alert where you can put a 10-second clip that gives specific instructions per district, or on how to adhere with the school's policy, the state's policies, the health community policies on a temperature detection. And so everything from built-in sounds to your own customizable alerts, and that makes it quite flexible. Next slide, please. So overall, talking about the capabilities and why you would want to consider putting a solution like this in to help protect your students and faculty, it's also about the measures that Johnson Controls has taken in putting together what I like to call the peace of mind. So one thing I want to be clear about, because there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace today about, are these medical devices? And what I want to assure you is that there is no ambiguity. The FDA has said that very clearly, when you're taking a temperature as an adjunctive device or a pre-screening where you would use a clinical thermometer for confirmation of a fever, in that use case, these are considered medical devices. And while the FDA has provided an enforcement policy that has really focused on a risk-based approach to the market in order to speed up solutions like the Illustra Pro Thermal EST to be able to solve these problems, they've very clearly stated 7 criteria that must be met in order to have a safe and accurate solution, ahead of getting a formal what's called 510K certification. And what I can assure you is that through our UL testing against the IEC 80601-2-59 standards, and as well all of the UL safety and that this device has gone through, proving that we exceed the minimum grade and quite significantly, again, from 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit to 0.4 is the accuracy that this performs at, that we are in full compliance with the enforcement policy and will complete the full medical mark for this device and the 510K listing over the next 8 to 10 months that process takes to do. So you have the peace of mind that this has been put through all of the necessary steps to comply with the FDA guidance. And and any solution that you're looking at, you should be asking for how, what is the proof and how do you back up that you've met these criteria necessary to be able to ship a product that does not create undue risk. Next is that there's the National Defense Authorization Act that was put into place by John McCain in 2018. Part B, or Law 889, of that act goes into effect after August 12th of this year. And what this does is really put an enforcement to say that there are certain Chinese technologies that are perceived to be a potential threat to US government or data privacy. And so we have taken the extra measures to ensure that we're using technologies in this camera that are not Chinese based. We use a system on chip, or the operating system, from a company called Novatech, which is a Taiwanese-based technology, but is NDAA compliant. So again, 2 fronts of peace of mind here. One, we have taken all of the considerations of understanding that this is a Class 1 medical device, and that we perform to the standards that the FDA requires for deployment. We're also not creating concerns, when it comes to the privacy of protecting information related to students and faculty, because we've assured the NDAA compliance and we have all the documents to back up both of those. And even going further, when it comes to data privacy and cybersecurity, Johnson Controls puts at the heart of its lifecycle development cybersecurity. It reports right in through the CEO of the company, and regardless of what the opportunity is, how much money, if the cybersecurity team sees a vulnerability and doesn't feel there's an acceptability for this to be released to market, they get to call an all stop, and there is no negotiating when it comes to that process. The Illustra Pro Thermal EST has been through to third-party external penetration companies. There is a hardening guide that comes with the release of the product, and the peace of mind that this does not create a cyber threat if this is chosen to be put on a network. And there's no requirement to do that. You can run this completely independent, but either way, it doesn't pose a cybersecurity threat, and it's an ongoing commitment through our cybersecurity program that if something becomes exposed, in a year from now, in terms of a cyber threat that wasn't known today, that we're part of our rapid response program and in the cyber partnership going to make that information readily available, any corrective actions, and the fixes turned around on that as a top priority. So, so this slide I really like to refer to as the peace of mind commitment, that this product brings. Next slide, please. So just very quick to touch on here about the thermal technology in general, and whether it's the Illustra Pro Thermal EST, which I believe really sits with a very strong competitive advantage in the things that you would consider. It is thermal technology, and that means it is subject to influence by things like wind or draft, extreme temperature shifts, looking at direct sunlight, and those aspects. So, this is where the partnership with Johnson Controls on the installation side, ensuring that this is set up properly and going to give you the accuracy that's on the data sheet. We can be that partner to really help you with that. And so, a lot of things to consider. One thing that I would, summarize here is that while the solution can be used outdoors, there are a lot of considerations because of the thermal influences. To include, you'd want to have like a tent covering and walls to protect from draft and sunlight, and as well, you need to make sure that you still can get the proper distancing away from the opening of the tent and to protect from drafts and those type of things that can influence in terms of accuracy. But the solutions can be deployed on tripods, made quite portable to move around. So, in one location for maybe the morning when everybody's coming in, and then maybe at lunchtime, you're moving this towards the cafeteria and doing a recheck without having to buy additional devices. And it's not that complicated to be able to move this, do a quick calibration, and then be up and running. So, there's some good flexibility there. So I hope I've been able to give you a good idea of what the solution encompasses, some of the peace of mind things that you need to know and should be considering, regardless of if it's the Illustra Pro Thermal EST or anything else that you might be looking at in helping to decide about what you put in place to bring a safer return back to schools. And and certainly I have appreciated the opportunity to share this.